I'm making a Metroidvania based in a secret underground research facility where everything is escaped and is threatening to take over the world. Been working on creating a playable demo to release on itch and Steam, and we've added a lot already, like a character with a state machine, combat, and bosses like this cute little guy. Do you think that when you beat this walrus, you should be able to ride him? Let me know. Last week, our goal was to create a tool to help us create a map. Every Metroidvania has a map that is slowly revealed as you explore. We started by getting a reference to our core level. This can be any level in the game, but we don't have many right now, so it's just this one. We take that and we take a little peek inside, and we look for two things: the room transitions and the tile map. The tool will then crawl through each transition, see what it connects to, and places some detail there. Now, originally it was just the tile map that the level is, and we created a smaller version of that for the map. So I created a second tile set that I just draw cubes over. Then what I do is I take the used tiles in that tile set and I draw cube polys for each point, which does exactly what we're going for. Then, as an added benefit, we use that exact same tile set to figure out where the player is during the game and highlight that point. We also set up exploration so we can log which tile we've been to and keep track of it. So it only shows us those tiles when we open up the map. Now, just like everything else we've made so far, it needs to be made to look good. So what's the plan this week? We need to create a status screen where you see all the upgrades and power-ups, so the player can check their progression as they play the game. We might even give them the ability to turn off and on different abilities. We also need to look into a crest, charms, or jade system, whatever, every game has a name for this kind of thing. Basically little things that you can collect to slightly alter the way that your character plays. If you're on YouTube, don't forget to like and subscribe. It really helps the channel out. If you're on Twitch, give us a follow. We're streaming development on Mondays, Wednesdays, Saturdays, 6 a.m. Australian Eastern Standard Time. Hopefully, I will see you there. Let's get started. Hello. How we doing? We ready? I'm tired, guys. I'm here. But no new stream intro, because we didn't actually get much done last week. And also, I didn't have time, but I do have one in the works. But essentially, we're still on the same page. One of the major problems we're having, and I'm realizing that the game is having, is the way that the player is sort of handled within the game. So the issue that we were having last time that we left off was that the mod menu doesn't get access to the player easily. And that's kind of a problem because that's where the data for this kind of stuff lives, right? So we either need to change where the data lives, change where the player data lives, or even just the player itself. So there's a couple of different ways that we can approach this. So if we look at the game state and how it handles things, and how the game actually even handles loading the player, this problem starts to become clearer. So if we look at the game state, the music's really loud, eh? I will turn that down. But I like it loud in my ears. Okay, so game state. So when we load a level, I don't even think, so for reference, right, we do keep some stuff saved here in the game state. We know about the player data, however, it's not the same, it's just a reference to that. I don't think if we change it, it really knows about that kind of stuff. I should probably check that first to see like how up to date that is, because I'm starting, like the game's gotten so big, I kind of forget. But when I load a level, load next scene, we delete the old level, we make the screen black, we get the new scene. This is not even like a good way to do it. I need to like, there's updated methods to like take care of this on a separate thread and all that kind of stuff. But we load the child, we add it as a child to the scene, we set it as the current scene, and then on level change emit, we don't ever like, we set player location, right? So this is what we do. And we have an index to a door. So how this works is like when you change rooms, like we know the ID of the door you came from and the ID that door is trying to hit. And so it looks to the new scene for that new ID, and it will find it. So we get nodes in group doors, right? And then we just set the player location to that global position. And so that makes me think, if I look at the game start script, when we load the player data, how do we know? Like, I know that it sets a location here. We set the player location, but where does the player spawns in at the game start? I know that because I've got this reference to it. And when we load player data, does that get called ready or something? Yeah, it does. If game state is game state, load player data, and then we get that. And so we instantiate the player here, and then we get the location from the game state. Okay. Yeah. I understand. And then that's how the game knows where to put the player. It just gets it from here, and then we actually take the player data, we change scenes, and we go. So the player data must be like at least semi-regularly updated. Because my whole thought around this was like, oh, I don't know, like if the player data is like 100% up to date all the time, because I know the responsibility chain is the player. The player is in charge of the player data. And when we save the game, yeah, sure. When we change scenes, yeah, sure. We pass it back to the game state because it needs to be stored somewhere when you die, you know, because like in all these instances where the player ceases to exist and needs to be started again. There is a script called update player where this gets updated. And I wonder, so when you save state, obviously you update the player, you know. When you change rooms, you update the player. Check a door. Where are my doors? Game object, door. Go through door. So we get the player data, and then we load next scene, we pass the player. So the game state is not really responsible for managing that. When you change scenes, you actually have to pass it through. So, what if the player as an entity existed as the game state and the game state controlled that? And when you change scenes, it simply just removed that child from the scene and put it in the new one. Do you think that would work? That's a question. It is a method I've looked at before, but I didn't like it at the time. Because when you remove a child from a scene, you are no longer getting the ready function called. However, all of these signals would still be connected anyway. And they're like on player state changed, on inventory item used. This is all stuff that isn't really going to have an issue, I don't think. So if you just pulled him out of the scene, it would probably be a lot easier, and then the data is going to be globally accessible with this guy. So I would say we find the door that you're coming from, set the player location, and then call the function. So it's not really that difficult, to be honest. When we run the game, and that's the other thing as well, what does this scene structure look like? So, let's have a look at this. The player just is at the bottom. Okay. So we don't even need, necessarily, we might not even need the game start as a, I mean, I don't hate having like a marker node that tells you where that's going to be, although that's getting set by the game state, so potentially that doesn't matter anyway. I don't know. But yeah, I think that's probably the better way to do it. Because everything else is like fine. Even the inventory is kind of a bit of a question mark. Like, I've got it working, but I don't like it. So how do we get access? That's the other thing as well. Like, let's look at the inventory, because I've done this before. And what did I do to like make that work? Is it inventory? It is inventory. So when we acquire an item, we send off signals basically to build the inventory. That's right. I was talking about this last time. I'm not a huge fan of this, where I update the inventory every single frame. Not every single frame. That would be even worse. Every single time we get a new item. Every time there's a change in the inventory. Like, what are we doing? You know? So what is this connected to? On inventory item consumed. And then on inventory updated. Build inventory, clear inventory, and then for our inventory items, we get the inventory. So on inventory updated, and that gets called every time the inventory gets changed. And I'm pretty sure, like, yeah, so it would be way better if, like, when this becomes visible in the tree. So I really like using on if visible in tree. So on visibility change, this is not actually connected because it's just not needed right now. But like, if we change it to like, okay, the inventory is visible now, right now. Although I do still like don't dislike the idea of when the inventory is updated, we make a change. We can update the UI in the background. That's fine, but do we need to like loop through everything again? I don't think so. But it kind of makes me wonder, like, how does this get built on ready? I can't even remember. It was only 3 weeks ago that I did this. On inventory. Well, I mean, some part of this must be, I can just stack trace it actually. If I just go build inventory and do that and then just run the game, rather than trying to figure it out myself. Game state. So the game state is aware of it because it's loading the game. Which is why when you start a new game, that doesn't happen. Nothing happens. Because... and you've still got like the default, which is like kind of a problem, right? Like it shouldn't look like this. And the reason is because nothing has been called to build up that inventory to make it correct. And it has no way of knowing that until you change an item in your inventory, theoretically. So like, do you start with cash? I don't know. You can get money really easily from these things. So if we go and then we go to the shop and then we buy something, it'll hit that and build the inventory. So now if we hit continue and we go back, the cancel button doesn't work anymore. How do we get out of this then? Okay, I need to address that too. What the hell? Either way. Great, more bugs. Go back to the inventory menu. Remove that breakpoint. Okay, so if we had access to the data, we wouldn't really need to rely. Signals are still really good here, but like, how do we get that at the start? Because the player has no concept of this, right? So the player on mod chip requested. So this is how I'm trying to do it here, where it's like, okay, well, here's the mod chips that are currently equipped by the player or whatever, where we signal out and then we actually pass ourselves in and we just call a method on that, which is like, that will work, but I don't really like that. That's like, let's just put the player on the data, on the game state. And if the game state becomes player aware, all of these problems go away. And we might actually be able to load and load the next scene like a lot quicker because we don't have to load up the player. Although I don't think the player is a bottleneck, it will lead to like potentially better solutions there. Maybe there's going to be some debugging that is required there. But like, yeah. On mod chip requested. Not a fan of that. But see, I'm trying to do the same thing, like mod chip collected, and then we pass it off. It's just not. Yeah, I'm just gonna turn the fan on. Okay. Okay, so how do we go about doing this? Go to the game state. So does the game state need access to the player scene? Okay. What is this? What is this? Oh, you're not. She wanted attention. Pay the dog tax. Hey? You're good? That's you. Well, again, I'm watching you at 2 a.m. Girek, welcome to the stream. Dude, that's late. I could never sleep that late. I would die. It was like 10:20 last night and I'm starting to throw a tantrum. But I appreciate you being here all the same. Okay. So the game state has a reference to, wait, this is not the game state, is it? It has a preload for the player? Do I use this ever? I can't believe I have this as a whole thing. I don't ever once use it. Okay, so we've already got it here. That's so funny. Oh, that's really easy then. So we just, when we load this, when we load the level and we load next scene, we need to add the player to the scene, right? Like pretty straightforward. Now, the other thing that we need to be aware of is the camera, but I think that is okay as long as we're still calling on the game start. So the way that it works, I believe, is the game start as an object. It is like just a thing that we can set the position and spawn the player at, right? We could still pass this. So when we have like, rather than have this happen in the ready function, have it get called at load player, and it expects a player. Right? So this is how we can sort of preserve all of this. And this is a player character. And then rather than instantiate a new player, we are just setting the player, well, I'm sorry, I can't stay too late. I don't think it should continue. I'll get scolded by pros. Yeah, dude, go to sleep. What the hell? So then the player's global position gets set here. If tile map outline, I don't know what that means. Tile outline. Position change. Oh, right. We connect. Yes, you still need to do that because it's a new scene. Root. Scene root. Get parent. Scene root add child. Call deferred. Player. Okay, so this... I mean, technically, we still could do this, right? Like, we could just add that. Await tree entered. Initialize player data and call that function. I mean, it could still work that way. Okay, so the only two things then I would say are that, like, potentially the player data and the location can be put onto the player at a later time, at the time in the game state. So that sort of solves a lot of the issues that we're gonna have. The only then thing is like the signals. The signals might be kind of a weird thing, but we'll see how they go. We might end up with some quirks. Depends what's getting called in the player's ready function. We're just connecting a bunch of signals. These are the ones that might be, but I think we're calling them in the initialized player as well. Set max health. Yeah, we're calling it an initialized player as well. Set health. And set energy. Yeah, we're calling all three of these, and the reason for that is that I don't know. Actually, I'm not 100% sure why I'm calling it twice, because I'm pretty sure this gets called every time, even on a new game. So, no, not too sure about that. The rest of these are globals, so they stay connected even if you don't. So, let us attempt to create a function in the game state to create the player and move him around. So, game state. So when we fresh load, when we start game from, like 9 times out of 10, you're going to start from a loaded state. New game. We have to spawn the player. So we don't actually, versus when we load a game, load game from menu, we ingest load and then we fresh load game menu. What about the player location though? Like, oh, you know, we don't have to set that, do we? Because that got set in the, so it's only when we change scenes, like when we change, what's that function called? Load next scene. That's when we set the player location. Is it the only time we're calling that? Yeah. We're only setting the player location. I was hoping to put it in here, but I don't think that's really the best case. Player location. Oh, we update the player location. Right. Any other time it gets set in the save player stuff. because we already know that. But that's all right. We can create player. We can create a function called load player, and then there might be one called like preserve player or something like that. So load player scene. Right, and so we've got the new player. Actually, might just be underscore player, as in player character is equal to player, all caps, dot instantiate. Right, so we instantiate that. We set the player data. Player.player data equals player data. Player.player location. Set player location. We could call that, maybe. No, that's not a good idea. Because that's based on doors. Player.location. Player data dot. That is dot global position. What are we doing in the game start? What do we do here? Player dot global position equals location. Okay. That is not gonna work here because that's not really gonna mean anything. So I think it's fine for this to be like done here because this is where we're adding it to the scene. And so I feel like this makes more sense. I could be wrong. Because we don't even add it to the child, add it to the scene yet. Yeah, let's just let this control that. I don't have an issue with that. Initialize player. It's literally its own data. Player.data. Okay, game start. Load player scene. We set the player and its data. I don't think anything else needs to happen. If we look at what we do in the game start, we are really just setting the data and the player location, and that is it. We're connecting. We're going to call this scene anyway, so yeah, that's literally it. When it's a new scene. So this is a new game. So like if we don't have player data, right, we go into like new game mode, which is, we actually save the game. So what we do is we create a profile essentially. We go new player, player data. And we will say, we set the global position, new player equals dot global position equals global position. Huh. Oh yeah, it's the game start. Right. Is this this is not a class or anything. Make that a class name. Game start. We're gonna need to get this from when we actually like, because we have to call. We have to make this part of some kind of group and actually call a function to say, you know, what it is and all that kind of stuff. I think that would work best. So we'll have to do this all on the we have to do this all on the game state. So, but that's not a bad thing because, like, realistically, we should probably be creating the new player profile here. So what do we do here? We essentially say we set the position of the player to be wherever this is, which is fine. and then we say get parent, scene root, add child. Okay. Await new player tree entered, and then we initialize the data again with a raw data, which is something, and then we update the player. We connect the same signal, right? Okay, same thing, and then we create a resource. Basically, we create a save state here. So that's what we're doing here. When we start new, we have to still create the player, so it can really be the same. The only difference is we need to create a save state. So realistically, the difference is here that we need to actually set the global position to the game start node, although potentially like have a different way of doing that for like a new game, right? It's only about like this one scene that needs this. It's kind of annoying to have it. Maybe potentially make the game start player location 00. This is gonna have a lot of bugs. Okay, so game state, we load the player, right? We load the player scene, and then we also need to go to the game start, add a group, create a group for this so that we can get access to it easily. Game start, global, okay. We just have to add a bunch of those at some point. So the other thing that we need to look at. Okay, let's go game state, and in here when we load the level, load next scene. Which one we've got a couple of these. We should probably clean some of this up. We've got load next scene and fresh load level. This is getting called a couple of times. New game from menu, load game from menu, game over, and save state. Oh yeah, we reload the game, don't we? Set current scene. So I guess it should happen here, right? This is the place where we're loading the next level. Pretty much in every single one of those, right? New game from menu, load game from menu, game over, save state. Yeah, those are the times where we reload the scene, so we should add the player here. So we add the child at the scene, and then we can go. Do we create a new function for this? Load player. In scene. Right, so we can say that the var position, game start position, game start is a game start, and that will be equal to get tree dot get nodes, get node in group. What's the group called? What did I call it? Game start, okay, not confusing. Is there like just a get first node in group? Isn't there? Call group. Call group. Get first node in group. Yeah, there is. Yes, that will work, but much better. Okay. So we do that, and then we can say, realistically, like, we have to load the player here, right? So that's what we're doing. So what we can say is, if player, do we have a variable for that? We don't. Play character. And when we load player scene, we can set the character. Yeah, we can say player equals player. So it's just when we load that, and then load player in scene, we can say if player, then game start. Hey, Eris Ezra, welcome to the stream. Thank you for the raid. Oh my goodness. How are you doing? How are you going today? / shout out. I really need to set up a bot for this. What have you been up to? Some pixel art?
You need to give them screenshots.
Nice. What have you been working on, dude? Dude, I love your avatar. That's so sick. A Godot game? Just working on adding a customer patience timer for my cafe game? Oh no. Patience is not something that I perform so badly under pressure. The timers work. Nice. Have I played your game before? I feel like I recognize this. Pressure makes diamonds? I just fall to pieces. I played the other week. Nice, dude. Yeah, I remember. I remember now. I couldn't type, could I? Six functions. Okay, yes. Let's look at my game for a second. But thank you so much for the raid. 6 functions. Okay, so we've been working on a if player game over. Let's just pass on that. The game is, you know what? It's so funny. I swear, every time someone raids me, my game won't run right now because I'm in the process of changing the way that the game loads the player. So we're working on a Metroidvania. And if you are familiar with the genre, unfortunately I have to raid and run. No, that's all good. We're working on a Metroidvania that is all pink, as you can see. So we'll turn off the map tile outline. And one of the things that is in a Metroidvania is this, like crests, you know, in Silksong, or like if you're a fan of the Castlevania, maybe you've played with the soul system that Castlevania had back on the GBA. All these kind of things augment the way the player plays, very minute, like it's small augmentations, but it does give a form of expression. And we're trying to add that system, but one of the issues is, how do we get to that data? Because the way that the game has been constructed is that everything is kind of separate, which is good because it makes the game very stable, and I can remove and add things to a scene without entering dependency hell. So that's a really good thing.
I got a little nut off.
Okay, thank you so much for the follow. I really need to change that sound. Blitz Freeman, thank you for the follow. So we have that. We have that system in place where it's like, okay, well, if I don't have certain things, it's not going to crash because it's not expecting anything from you. So it's a game with low expectations of itself. But that means like, okay, when I have the mod chips, we're calling them, like when I have this system in place, how do I display that, right? I got to get to it. And it's kind of hard. It's kind of hard to get to it because the signals aren't fast enough. So, you know, we need to, like, to the point where the thing that was responsible for loading the levels was not the thing that was actually even aware of the player. You know what I mean? So it would load up the level and it would have the data for the player, but it would not have the player. And so it's like, okay, well, I can't even go to the global script that's controlling all of this from the menu and say like, hey, can I get a copy of the data from the player? Because it's not the thing responsible for the data. It just holds onto it when you're loading scenes and stuff like that. So we're going to change the structure. We're going to refactor that a little bit so that the player and itself exists in the game state. And then when we change scenes and stuff like that, we just load him into the scene. You know what I mean? Which will make it so that we can have like a globally accessible player, which means that we can all do all sorts of funny things. Obviously, you don't want to do too much with it, but it will mean that when I access the menu, I can just request that data directly from the game state manager, rather than having to rely on a complex set of signals and callbacks for that. Which I think will be better in the long term. Because like making a Metroidvania, if it's one thing that I've learned is like, you don't want to make the game until you've finished making the systems, because otherwise it's going to get messy really quick. Like I just added a group for this game start node so that I can get access to it. And so now I have to go through the 4 scenes that I have made and I have to add that to the group. Now imagine if I had 100 scenes in my game. I had to go through and add a group. I would need to create a tool script in order to do that quickly. So it's way better now. I need to know that like, okay, I have a game start object in my level and it needs to be part of the game start group. So that when I go to the game state, which is not going to load up. There it is. We can actually get access to it. So we get access to the game start. If the player exists already, then we just call game start dot load player, and we pass in the player, right? Else, we need to do a load player scene. Does that return the player or is it just load the player? Okay, I guess we just load the player scene. I kind of like it if that returns the player rather than set the player. Player equals player, I love that. Return player. Player equals. There's always going to be a player. Interesting concept. Player equals player, load player scene. Then in this particular one, I don't need to do that. As long as this is always being called by that other function, which is load player in scene, which is, I think, what we're going to do. And then this could be neater, because I'm going to call this game start load player always. Game start dot load player. Player. If player continue, player equals load player scene can be called every time because it just returns a... So what we can do here, we can say if player, then return player. And then we can say, yeah, that's better. And then that way in the load in scene, we can just say player equals load player scene. I don't know if, I don't know. That seems dodged to me, actually, because this is called load player scene. Little load player scenes. I change this to add player to scene. And then the game start, we'll just get the copy of that. Okay, and then that will add the player to the scene. Now, where do we call this function? Fresh load scene? Generally, that's where we're going to need to do this. So that should work for pretty much everything. I think the only issue is then, if it's a new game, you know what I mean? Like if it's a new game, this is kind of a problem. I think it should be fine for a loaded state because the player is going to have a position in place and that should work out just fine. But other than that, I don't think the game start will know. Let's find out. Moment of truth. It'd probably crash a lot. Yeah. It's alright. Where are we crashing out? Signal manager. Ah. Invalid access to key or mod chip requested because the signal no longer exists. That's alright. Different error. How long do you need to go? Like, how many changes you make before you start, like, making changes? Okay, so we made it all the way to game state. That's pretty good. Invalid access to property or key data on base object character body 2D player character. What's it called on the player? Player data? We actually set it up here. Instantiate global position scene route called deferred. Get player data. Okay. It's called player data, not data. That's good news though. We made it all the way here. Should run. Fingers crossed. Yeah, it's all good. So everything is fine, I guess, right now. So the game will run and we can collect stuff, for example. Okay, so let's see what happens when we save the game and try to load up a new scene. And we're gone. He's just gone. He's out of the scene. That's funny. Is he in the scene at all? Where is he? He's not in the scene. Okay. Interesting issue. I wonder why that would be the case. Let's try a couple different use cases. So we know that when we load the scene, obviously that's an issue and it doesn't work, although the state was saved, so that's good. What about when we die? You're too slow. I'm assuming we're just gonna like bug out again. The same issue will apply. Yeah, it's the same thing. We end up back here, but the character is not loaded into the scene. So I'd say that's pretty much the case for everything. Walking through a door as well, I assume that doesn't work. Let's go. Same problem, I imagine. The saving game thing did work though. Let's walk through this door. Yeah, same thing. Player doesn't load up when you load a new scene from... So we're all good. It's an interesting thing. Now this could just be down to the fact that we're returning the player. So I wonder what's happening here. Let's put a... I like how I have like just a pause on this. Let's just put a breakpoint on the load player. And see if this function is even getting called. I'm assuming it's not. Obviously when we load the game. And then when it's not getting called. No. So we're not loading the player. This function is not getting called. So when we add player to scene, we're calling it fresh load level. And when we save the game, what happens? Save state. We fresh load level. So why is this not getting called? Add player in scene. I'm guessing game start doesn't exist. That's going to be the next one, right? So game start is an object, right? Okay, fine. Game start is also an object still. So why no call? Okay, it is the correct object. Step into. Huh. Interesting. Yes. Fascinating. Not really. This is dumb. Step into location. So location is null. That's what it is. Wait, no, of course it is. We haven't set the location yet. The location is this. The scene root is null. I wonder what that has to do with anything. I don't know. Player global position. It's that. If tile map outline, do that. Scene root get player, get parent. Or is that potentially... No, we have a scene root. Add child, player. Await tree entered. And then we call initialize player. Wonder why it's not getting added to the scene. What could be the issue? What an interesting little error. So this is all being called game start. Await player tree entered. Oh, is it potentially... You know what? This is because it's in another scene already. And what you need to do, right, I've forgotten a step, right? Game state. When we go to a next scene, right? Wherever that is, we're going to have to look at how that works. So when we go to like a save state here, when we fresh load level, we probably also need to preserve the player, right? Because he's already in a scene. We can't just like move him between scenes. There's another function you need to call. Okay, so save state, and then load as well. Like go to the next room, right? The door. Load next scene. Where's this being called? One. It's one of one? Okay, so this gets called when you go to a door, and that's it, which is good. And then, yeah, save state and game over, I suppose. Those are the three, right? So we need to get a function here that returns the player and gets like... So basically what we can do is we can have a function... I guess it's fine right here. Get remove player from tree. Void. So we need to go and say player. So there's a get tree, right? Get current scene, isn't there? Var scene. There's a node 2D, I guess. Is get current scene. Current scene. It's a variable, right? Current scene. Right. Okay. Player. Player character. Current scene. Dot remove node. Remove child. And then we have to pass in the node, which would be player. Remove child because it is null. Cannot return a value. Oh, it doesn't return a value. So current scene remove child. Huh. Removes a child from the node along with its... No, this is not what I'm looking for. Are not deleted. To delete a node, queue free. When this node is inside a tree, this method sets the owner. This method sets the owner of the removed node or its descendants. If the owner is no longer an ancestor, see its ancestor of. When this node is inside the tree, this method sets the owner of the removed node to null. Okay, so we're gonna have to remember that. If the owner is no longer an ancestor. Okay, so if we just remove the child, then... Okay, maybe we don't need a whole function for this, but we'll just have it there just in case. So when we get a game over, we have to just call remove player from tree, and then same from save state. Remove, and then change scenes, right? Next scene. Load next scene. Set the current scene. We don't. So, where do we fresh load level here? Level to load. Add child. Call deferred. Set current scene. This doesn't even call set player location. And then you say load player in scene. That returns, no, it's add player in scene. Okay. Still kind of sus, but we'll see. Let's change the timer a little bit. Okay, we got a ton of bugs just now. Okay, load player. Player position is already connected to given callable. Okay. Shapecast wall D is already connected. I thought none of this add state got called. There's a reason why I gave up on this idea, because it was like a problem. Finished is already connected to a given callable. That being said, I mean, it's progress still because signal is already connected to a given callable. Load player. Player position changed, already connected to a given callable. Okay. In that object. But we still didn't... we still don't have the player in the scene, right? Like, he's not here. Which is super annoying, because I've done this before and had that ability. I guess I'm just going about it wrong. I know you can do this. And a breakpoint. Player? Path? Game state entry facility 1 player. It really shouldn't have a path like that. It's not in this scene because that scene has been removed. Yeah, okay, so I guess I'm not like understanding exactly how remove state works. Remove node, I should say. Remove child player. Along with its children, they're not deleted. Delete a node, CQ free. When this node is inside a tree, this method sets the owner to the remove node to null. If the owner is no longer an ancestor of that. Yeah, so I thought this meant that it would clear that kind of information and allow it to be added, re-put to another scene. But I think I'm misunderstanding exactly that. Player dot node path? Print. I want to see. Scene file path, player data, get path. Returns the node's absolute path in the scene tree route. This node is not inside its scene tree. This method fails and returns an empty node path. Okay. Am I not calling that function? Game start. I love refactoring. It's an orphan. Now, how do we take that and put it somewhere else? I know you can do this. So it does successfully get removed. Get path 2, get physics. Documentation, love it. Orphan. Input. This only works if it's not an orphan. Returns the object's IDs of all orphan nodes outside of the scene tree used for debugging. Works only debug builds when call the project is released. Get orphan will return an empty array. They don't rely on it. Print orphan nodes. Get orphan nodes ID. I wonder... I know that there's a way. I've seen this been done. I've done this myself. Add orphan. Oliver Twist is lurking and he's getting upset. The orphans. Yeah, Godot is pretty funny when it talks about children and parents, and you're like removing children and killing parents. It does like have a vibe. Oh, remove child. Yeah, remove child. So easy to reparent. No need to call. So easy to reparent too. No need to call single a custody battle. Yeah, exactly. Although I feel like I am having a custody battle because I don't know why it's not getting added to the new scene. Even though, like, theoretically, when it has no parent, if it has a parent, you can't give it a new parent, right? You have to remove, I am the custody, like I am CPS, right? And then it's like, remove the child, right? And then we should be able to just do whatever with it because it becomes an orphan node. They're not deleted, right? That's what it literally says that. Doesn't reparent also do this? I didn't even know that. Is reparent a function? Ah, new node. Interesting. Oh. Two below remove. Reparent would work except for the fact that I need it to do things. What does it say about it? Changes the parent node to a new parent. This node needs to already have a parent. The node's owner is preserved if its owner is still reachable in the new location. Keep global transform is true. The node's parent replaces this node with a given node or its children node are removed. Request ready. Remove from group. Remove child. I think that is like not a bad idea, except for the fact that I kind of need it to do a lot of custom stuff. I wonder if I have to remove the owner. Well, it says it sets the owner to null. I wonder if I have to set the owner again. That's the other thing I'm kind of curious about. Like, I'm assuming at this point that in the game start, when we get to this point here where we're instantializing the player, this function's being called. So if we print player and dot owner, it should just be like a random node string. Also, I've probably got like a million breakpoints I have to get through. All right, current scene reparent. Oh, I've just typed that in. I'll comment that out. So object equals null. Interesting. By passing the new parent below two. Yeah, I mean, it doesn't work. That's, I guess, the issue. It's not scene root add child. Curl deferred player, and then we await player tree entered. What if we just like didn't call deferred and we just add child? How does that? What if we just didn't do that? Nothing works because it doesn't exist. There's a reason that's in there. Interesting. But we are still getting to this because it enters the tree. I'm so confused. Right? Like, we are still making it down here. I'm assuming. Yeah, we're getting to this. So it's await tree entered. Where is it? Where are you? Tell me. It's still here. Look, the player is still here. Not in this new scene. He should not be there. This is a timing issue. Everything is happening too quickly. So, I guess what you're saying with reparent could potentially work here. This is why it's kind of weird. It's like, oh, why is the path Facility 01? Because what happens is, like, you get a new scene. This node 2D at 16. Even though it's the same scene. I try to reparent. I type reparent. I mean, it's like pear, but like the fruit, right? Or like pairs of cards, I guess. So can we call reparent here? I don't really like that though. I'd rather game state handle this. But the problem is, we've got this like custom. We're adding it to the tree. Kind of stuff. I don't like any of this. I wonder if we could await tree exited. So let's look at the game state. Because I think this is a timing issue. Because this is all happening too quickly. I've encountered this before. I really need to put this on a separate thread. But let's just, we'll cross that bridge later on. So when we update this save state, right, we remove the player from scene and then we fresh load level. I wonder, we could await player tree exited. Is that signal called when you remove child? Child exiting tree. Emitted when the child node is about to exit the scene tree, usually because this node is exiting the scene tree, or because the child is removed or freed. Okay. Child exiting tree, and then node. Emitted after the node exits tree is no longer after. Signal is emitted after notification exit tree notification. Renting pairs sounds like an odd business model, or a genius one if you have damage on return fees. Okay, let's see if we can get this signal. Emitted. Or we can say tree exited. Like, await player tree exited. I'm assuming that gets called when you remove a node. So then we could say await player dot tree exited and then load the next scene. That's on the game over. Let's chuck this little or the game never loads. So we got two things. Either this works or the game is just going to be black screen. Black screen. I guess that I just like flash.
3.
Goose Fat, welcome to the stream. I guess that doesn't get called. Huh. Am I gonna have to watch a tutorial or something? I don't want to do that. Tree exited. Call when the node is about to leave the scene tree, upon freeing, scene changing, or after calling remove child in a script. Wait.
How are you?
We're doing good. We're trying to refactor the way that our player is loaded in the game, and it's not going the way that I expected because the code is not behaving the way that I expected it to. But that's okay. We overcome these. Exited. Emitted after the node is exits the tree and is no longer active. Corresponds to the notify object notification signal tree and the signal tree exiting. Signal. Yeah, tree exited. I don't get it, man. Am I... doing something wrong here? Current scene dot remove child player. Does this return? Does this just like silently fail? See ancestor of. Removes a child from a node to delete a node CQ3. When this node is inside a tree, this method sets the owner of the node or its descendants. If their owner is no longer an ancestor of, see ancestor of. Reparent could be like that. We could try that, right? Changes the parent node to the new parent. So new parent equals current scene. Keep global transform, and then make that false. I mean, we could kind of keep it true. So I guess let's fall back to this in the game state. Reparent. So I mean, it could also be so current scene. Okay, so here's probably the issue here. We are calling this after I've queued free the scene, which is kind of dumb. We should be doing this first, right? Like, let's just try this. Just review, code review. Queue free, remove player from scene. So look at the order of this. This is dumb as hell. Maybe that will just work a little bit better. And then we'll see if like we'll go to reparent. Oh, we still have that await, which we know doesn't get called. Or we're not getting that back. Yeah, okay. This is all just signal related. The thing is, it's kind of funny because like you'd think like it is working because we are trying to add the Sayas player, but it's like it's already connected to given callable. It's already connected to all this kind of stuff, and it's like, what? Why is it trying to do that? Unless something within that is part of the failure. But back in December when I was originally setting up the save load, I was doing this. But I think I wasn't doing it with the player, I was doing it with the whole level. So it was not a big deal. So we pass in the player, right? And then what we can do is scene root add player, rather than add child, maybe we can reparent. We can say like if player dot has owner has parent. Why isn't it doing anything? Oh, the player doesn't exist. If player dot is part of edited scene, get parent, find parent, has parent. Oh, there's no check. I just have to call reparent. Is orphan? No. New parent node. Scene root. But yeah, let me read this. Changes the parent of this node. If this node needs to already, the node needs to already have a parent. The node's owner is preserved and its owner is still reachable from the new location. The owner is preserved if is reachable from the new location, which it shouldn't be. So it needs to have a parent. So this only works if it's not a fresh load. So how can I test that? Owner, get owner. The owner, okay, so the owner of this node, the owner must be an ancestor when packing. No, that's not really going to work because the owner and parent can be different. I guess if you like look at the node path. Scene file path, no. Get node. Get path. Returns the node absolute path relative to the scene tree root. If the node is not inside the tree, this method fails and returns an empty node path. Right, so if we call get path and it's null, so we can say if underscore player dot get path, then we can reparent, else add child call deferred. And we can still call this call deferred. I think that's probably the better way to do it because we're relying on this scene existing in the scene for other things, and then we just go, we wait for it to tree entered. Is this tree entered called emitted when after entering the tree, notification enter tree, scene tree entered. I hope that it gets called that way. I don't know. And then the other thing as well is that we're going to need to go and not remove the child from the scene. We'll just leave this as pass for now, just in case we need to still do that. And then we'll run the game and hope and pray. Okay, we have some errors, but the guy is existing. We still don't exist. Load player, can I get path of node as not in the scene tree? And then the position play is already connected to given callable, right? But we're still not in the scene tree. You know what I mean? You know what? I think I kind of know what might be happening. I just had the realization that when I'm doing get nodes in group, get first node in group, I'm not like necessarily like it could be the other node, right? Because that still exists at the time, because it's not like the game is moving so quickly that sometimes nodes are not removed in time for that next function call, and they still exist in the same because it's like on a frame by frame. So if they're all called in the same frame, then you're going to end up with a different node, the wrong node, essentially. So if we look at game state and we get the first node in group for the add player in scene, right? When we're calling fresh load level, we queue free, but we don't await. Current scene await scene removed or something like that. There's a function you can await for scene tree exited, right? Await dot await current scene dot exited. Queue free doesn't exit. Yeah, exactly. And then we fresh load the level. This is why it needs to be in a separate thread. We're going to start like the black screen is going to be a while. It's going to be. I don't think that'll change though. But yeah, it shouldn't be like in the same. But we'll worry about that later. Which one did I just did that in one of them, but not both. Like game over. Await player tree exited. No. They're selling the house with us in it. Do you come with the house? If I buy your house, will I own you? Current scene, key free, reset health, reset energy. Game state, reset energy. I don't know what's going on there. Okay, let's just try. Do we end up with just a black screen forever again? House comes furnished with 2 humans. Yeah, that's pretty... Okay, well, that still worked. Well, the scene didn't crash, but like we still end up with nothing. New error? Cannot get the node as it's not in the scene tree because I deleted it. Hell yeah. Okay, wait. Progress? Hold up. Hold up. Progress? So we remove the child, right? We queue free, we await current scene tree exited, and then we load the next level. How can we go about this? Hopefully. Hey, look at that. We exist with 113 errors in our debug, but we exist. Oh, and the camera is not following us. I love that. Camera is like, where do I go? And the reason it's moving is because no house with 2.5 humans and 0.5 of a goose. Oh, goodness. Look at all those errors, though. Okay. That is progress, though. Look at all of this. Okay, I know what is happening here. This is definitely going to be a part of... So, let's go back to the level. Now, I thought the game start was responsible for setting the camera. But I guess the camera is... I don't actually know how that works. Sounds like a lot of maintenance. Yeah, I'll pass on that. In this economy, you know what I mean? You know how much petrol is right now? It's like $3 a litre. Can't afford humans. Tree call deferred. Tree exited. Initialize player. Okay, so it's not... So is it a signal thing? It's always a signal with me. Follow target is game start, which is pretty funny. So it's always going to go to that. But then surely what I think happens is in the player, we emit a signal. Camera follow request. But when do we emit that signal? Signal manager, we emit that on ready. But actually, we should emit it on initialize. It gets called in both. There's going to be some of these, like on player interface activated, emit. We should just move some of these into the initialize player. This gets called no matter what. So... And now the camera is following us. Okay, let's look at all these big errors. This is because I'm calling start state machine, and the state machine was already started. Which creates a state map. It creates a state map, and it initializes it, which we don't need to do. Obviously, it still works, but we probably need to think of a different way to do this. We could just call it in the ready. It's honestly fine. It's only going to be needed call in the ready, I think. Let's see what that's like. Are we calling it in both? Just in initialize. Just call it in ready. Oh, it's because of the player data. Okay, so maybe, yeah, because we want to make sure that we've got the most current data. We call it on the ready. You'll just have like your starting data. You won't have like your loaded data just because of the timings of everything. However, do we get away with it now because we are instantiating it on the ready function? Like, does it work now in a different kind of way? Like, maybe it's okay. Why don't we try? Because we set the data again here, but we don't really need to anymore. What is that supposed to be? I need to ask base code. It's a nacho spin? Okay, it is a chip. It's a chip. Spilled water all over my desk. Okay. Alright. So. Yeah, exactly. Dude, how good are Doritos? Let's just put it in the ready function, because I'm actually starting to think now, because we've moved where the player is spawned, it's actually okay. The data is preserved. We don't actually need to set the data. Or even we can say state machine data equals state machine data, player data equals player data. We don't get that, but let's see. Let's see how things function. They'll be fine on these because they don't have. I gotta actually make changes to it, but null. Ooh, cannot set on a null value. Animation player dot set parameters run state. Because the animation player doesn't exist yet? Is that what it is? Like gravity animation player is null? Great. Maybe I just need to do some existing checking. So if I go to the state machine, if the map already exists, maybe child data equals data, add state child. How do we check for this? I wouldn't even know. Start state machine, create state map, initialize. Set active true, current state, return initialized super state. It's really here that we're generating the state map is the problem.
Cat.
Yeah. I can't have a cat. My dog will chase it and try to eat it. Child.data equals data. Ignore set paths animation player. This is here the issue. Character. None of this exists in the ready function yet. So I don't want to call this when the player already exists. That is, what is that? Now I'm getting distracted by all of these. Janu. I actually don't recognize. It kind of looks like a bouncy ball. Oh, yeah, beach ball. Yeah, sweet. Beach ball. Like, okay, so if we set the path, if we do this only in the ready function, there's no way for me to know. I guess I could say that if it has children, then we don't need to create a state map. So we could, in theory, we could say like if get children, get child count is greater than 0, then we don't need to do this because they already exist. No, that's not. Wait, am I crazy? Add state. What are we saying here? When we return super, connect. Add state. State map state. So it's the state map. If the state map is empty, then you keep going. If the state map is not empty, then you return out of this because you've already created it. You don't need to. Yes. That will work. Bye-bye. Have a good day. What's it called? Dictionary? State dictionary? State map? Dot is empty. If not, return. Because if the state map is empty, then we don't need to do that. And I'm pretty sure add state is the only time we're calling initialize with a start state is, hey, NA games, gotta hop in bed, gotta go to work in 7 hours. Geez, get some sleep, brother. Have a good sleep. I'll try to have a good day. We only create state map at the start. Right, we're not calling that anywhere else. 2 matches. By the way, did you play Blueprints off stream? No, I haven't. Actually, I had a really busy day yesterday. Really busy day. Okay. So I think I'm okay. Let's find out if everything breaks. We're just trying to reduce the number of errors, like when we refresh and everything. None. We got none. That fixed everything. What about when we die? Oh, the UI isn't showing up. I feel invincible. No, there we go. I died. That's funny. Okay, I can't shoot. And then we're back. We're back. Okay. I became a ghost, yeah. I do know why that is the case, I think. We have to do some resetting when we die on the player before we like spawn in. Because I couldn't shoot. Now, why do I think that is? Now, you can't shoot when you take damage. So like, you can't shoot when you're taking damage, but the player state machine is not in control of when you can shoot. The weapon manager is. It's expecting a signal from the state machine to say that you're in a state that you can shoot. So we get fire disabled, right? So if fire is disabled, then you can't shoot, right? And then on shooting disabled, on shooting disabled entered. Okay, well, I don't know about the names of these, but we need to make sure that fire disabled is called in the initialize. Fire disabled set to false on initialize. We even have access to the weapon manager in the player. I kept things so separate, it makes it kind of difficult sometimes. We do have the weapon manager. Okay, well that's good. So then we can just say weapon manager. Arian GG, hello. That's a name. Welcome to the stream. Fire disabled. Fire disabled is equal to false, right? When we initialize the player. And the other thing was the other thing that we were dealing with was the shader, which we can control. Do we have access to the sprite? We can get access. We don't have access to the sprite, but we can get access and then just call whatever function is controlling that. Oh, I've forgotten because I haven't had to look at it for like months, literally months actually. I set this up ages ago. Flash character flash. What kind of game are we making? We are working on a Metroidvania, and it is currently, we're getting to the state now. We've been working through, we've got like the combat down, we've got the bosses and a lot of the movement and stuff. That's all done. And we're sort of going through and we're working on like the menus and stuff like that. So the last, it's really been February, March, or mostly March actually. I think I was working on bosses in February. So in all of March, we've done, you know, we've updated the UI, we've added inventory here, which is pretty basic, but you know, you get the idea. And then we've got a map, which you can explore. It's kind of like the Metroid map where it's just a square. Obviously, visually, it doesn't look that good. We've got missions so we can display, like if we talk to this guy, He says just destroy 5 crawlers. Now, I don't think that's going to be like an actual quest that you can complete in the game, but it's just as an example that's going to show up. And if you do it, it'll change color, for example, but there's no crawlers around, so I can't do that. And then we have abilities. And if we add abilities, control this, and we change abilities, say if we get the dash, and we click done on that, it'll show that we've got the dash ability. And so we're just working on these bits. Visually, it's not like complete, but it's just in a state that it does exist so that we can start play testing it and building it out. So we get what we want to do is get all the systems in place so that we can actually make the game, because we don't want to make the game and then have to come back and do all this kind of stuff, because like if you need to make a change to the scene structure, then it becomes a big problem. Getting to the fun stuff, that's the hard part, yeah. And so yeah, now we're working on we're calling it mod chips. I don't know about that name. I think I'll just call it mods. Basically like your crest or your charm system, or if you're a fan of the Castlevania series, like your soul system, Tactica Soul, I think it's called, that you saw in like Aria of Sorrows and stuff. Have I ever published a game before? No, just small stuff on itch, just a bunch of small games. Your classic. My first game was like an Android game that had like 10 levels. It was just a simple platformer. This was back in 2020. I don't even know if it's still available on the Google Play Store. I lost the key to update it. You know what I mean? Like it was very early days. And then since then I've mostly just published small games on itch, which are not very successful, but game jam stuff basically. How do you get to so according to you, this game is a good career path? No, absolutely not. I mean, it's tough, man. I'm not a full-time game developer, right? I am just a guy with a dream. I work finance full-time. There you go, there's my edge. The last game I made was like a year ago. Actually, I haven't made any small games. I've been floating around, but I do a bunch of demos and stuff, and I've made devlogs on those. But as a career path, honestly, it depends how old you are. So my advice to a lot of people is going to be different from someone who works in the industry, because I don't work in the industry. But I'll say this about myself. It was something that I wanted to do when I was 15, 16, but I decided against it based on the advice of career counselors and all that kind of stuff, because they were especially back when I was a kid, I'm older, right? I'm 35 now, and what back then, this was not a viable career path, right? There were no there were, but they were way less known. So back in 2005, there was way fewer open source tools to be able to create this stuff on your own. So the viability of becoming an independent game developer was basically nil, and you had to get a job in the industry. And because of my location in regional Australia, that's kind of hard. I'd have to move to Melbourne at the time, which is very far away from where I live. Every other job is replaced by AI. So let's say I want to learn a skill. What should I learn? I reckon fuck AI. That's what I reckon. Just do what you like. AI is just a fad. I think it'll go away to some extent. It can't replace everything, and if it does, then you'll just be learning that. But you still need to know how this all works, right? You can't just get an AI to do it for you and be yeah, job done. You need to know how a game is actually made. So I think if I had to guess let's say AI does replace actual coding and art development or whatever, you can make a game with AI. You're still going to need people that know how to make games. So part of that process will be learning how to do it without AI. That's just how it is, right? When I did finance, a part of that was having a big book with ledgers in it and doing accounting like they did back in the 1600s on paper. That was one of my first assignments. No computer, you know what I mean? here's what it's like without, you have to do it with a calculator and keep track of it all in your head. Crazy. But like that was something that you had to do. That was a part of the learning process. Problem solving skills are the go. Yeah, exactly. You still have to be able to know how to solve the problems that the AI creates and fix them yourself. There will always be a human hand. But yeah, like as far as like career device, where did you start from? Like Python? I started C#. This is my first, I guess. Yeah, C#. I started learning C#, and then I went on to like, so I first started back in 2015, I was like, I want to learn how to code, actually because of AI. I was like, AI is going to replace everything. I need to learn how to code so that as a finance guy, I can like deal with the AI and help guide it or whatever. C# with Unity. Yeah, and so I learned how to use C#, and then I learned how to use Unity. And then I learned a little bit of Unreal, but then when I found Godot, I just stuck with it. It was just like, it was an engine that like really appealed to me. And also it's open source, so there's no stress around like money and all that kind of stuff. It's not bloated, it's super lightweight, it's nice. But yeah, if you're starting out and you just want to make games, if you want a career in software development, you're going to need to like, my Brainstorm played D&D yesterday for a test. Brainstorm? Every part of it was spinning up player characters, even the DM had a couple. So you just spend all day like making character sheets. I've never played D&D. It sounds like fun though. But yeah, like my advice would just be, if you're young, like just go to university and get educated. But also like have something going on. You know, have this. Like be learning how to do this and do it when you're not studying to learn how to like actually code. Because you need those skills. And I think it's good either way. Like I know a lot of people say that you can find success without like higher education, but I still think it's very valuable, especially in these fields. There's a cluster of AI agents playing in, okay, I get it. Like AI playing D&D. Dude, that's interesting. See, like that's an area where like AI could genuinely be good, right? Like a DM that's AI. But you still, like, I would say, like, don't know, they broke into a local security box. Just doing all sorts of crazy shit. Honestly, D&D is a great model for game design. Yeah, well, if you look at like all of the original RPGs, they're all based on that. Same rule sets, you know what I mean? It's great when you start thinking about like chance and all that kind of stuff, and like, yeah, you just roll a 20. But you can learn everything from programming and game dev on the internet. You don't need an education system. I think, well, that's the thing as well. Like, it depends on what you want in life, right? Like, I chose a much more stable career path, and it's worked out for me. Like, I'm fine. I never have to worry. But I have to do this in the morning. You know what I mean? I have to do this in the evening. I don't get to do this for a job, right? And so, yeah, I don't have to worry about layoffs pretty much ever, or like trying to, you know, squeeze into the industry. But I do look at contracts and leases all day, every day. My career path laid me off to replace me with AI in August. That sucks, dude. Yeah, fuck that. I think it'll eventually come for me as well, but not for a while. The level of incompetence is astounding. And so I don't know how you could survive without like people. Like the business is like from an accounting, like from a finance perspective, you like sort of get to see like the inner workings of a business, and you start to realize how badly they all run together, and like everything is just chaos all the time. And I just don't see how like AI could fill in that gap. Don't know. Your mind naming conventions. Hey. I heard that. Wait, I don't. No shots fired. Oh, no, it's okay. That is funny though. So wait, where were we? Things were breaking, right? Oh, right. Yeah, we needed access to current generative AI is non-deterministic. Accounting is strictly deterministic. Don't cross those veins. Yeah, exactly. It just doesn't work. It's like you can't, and it's so, it's one of those things where I see it all the time. Like I get very perplexed. I see it online. It's like, oh, like this company is replacing everyone with AI. And I'm like, every company I've worked for, and maybe it's a cultural thing, like in Australia, every company I've worked for is so cautious with its systems that work behind the scenes, like your point of sale, the systems that handle revenue. They don't want to change nothing ever quickly. And so this idea that's like, oh, we're replacing AI with everything. It's just like, the way I've seen things work is no one wants to touch shit until they're 100% sure that it's not going to like prevent, you don't want to ever have a period where you can't make money. Like it depends on what you do as a business, but like for the companies I've worked for, they have a point in time where they need to press a button on a computer that, you know, records revenue and charges a customer an invoice, right? And you don't ever want to be able to not do that when you need to. And you don't want that number to be wrong. Like, could you imagine? AI invoice? A lot of businesses are just like a game project that has grown too big, too quick to adapt. Yeah, I've seen that before too. Sprite manager. Does it have a name? I don't think it has a class name. It doesn't. Let's give it one. I guess I should call it player sprite manager, so I don't get confused later on. What do you think, NA? The biggest problem I find these days is business with 1 million subscriptions. The infrastructure is shotgun across American startups. Yeah. Yeah, that is a problem. I've seen that a lot too. It's like you've got your Microsoft, you've got your Adobe, you've got your whatever, and then people are like, oh, why are we paying so much for this? And it's like, yeah, it is what it is, buddy. Wait. What's the name of the script? Dude out, yeah. Subscriptions are, I hate subscriptions. They are like, when software went as a service, it actually, I feel like that just ruined everything. Can we go back to when that wasn't the case? Go back in time to a point in time where things weren't as a service. Life was just better, man. Okay, but I have this sprite manager. Now, what do I do with it? I'm like a dog with a catches the car or whatever. Okay. Flash rate, that. Weapon visible, that. Flash character, flash time remaining. What am I actually manipulating here? Flash character, flash, Zelda. So flash 0, I guess you call? Flash value. I think I just say flash 0, right? On weapon shooting timeout. If weapon visible. Flash character, flash. Yeah, I just say. I saw those pricings for some popular creative set of tools. It's insane what they are charging for some software, yeah. When you get into the commercial space, it's like actually insane. Invulnerable time. I'd make flash time remaining 0, right? Yeah, flash time remaining 0. Krita replaces Photoshop these days. I have battle tested at 3 companies at the moment. Yeah, I don't mind Krita. I prefer GIMP, but like it's different, I guess. I'm not much of an artist. So sprite manager dot flash time remaining equals 0. Should fix those problems. Let's have a look. Oh, I didn't actually set the... Oh, so stupid. I need the programming side of Krita? Oh, that's cool. I never thought about that. Okay, let's go die. This guy never chases you back once he hits the wall. I need to fix that. Okay, we still are flashed up. I think I'll just create a function to fix that. It's a lot easier. So we can just say func set flash off. And oh my god, keyboard. And then we just say flash character false. Material not declared. It's annoying. There we go, set flash off. Okay, so we can go to the player and we can call set flash off here instead. Let's try again. And then at that point, I think we just need to test changing rooms to see what that looks like. It's always avoiding him. And then the UI, I think, is a bit bugged as well. But then we'll be back. Okay, that worked. And yeah, the UI is bugged. I think we can fix that fairly easily. Let's just test changing rooms. Okay. GameStart.load player. Load player is null. Add player in scene. Load player. Player is null. Attempting to call load player. Game start. Okay, game start doesn't exist. Interesting. Let's have a look at the function. So this is in load next scene. We're not calling remove child, perhaps. Set player location, add player in scene, set current scene, call deferred level to load, player start, current scene queue free. So here, okay, number one, we're in the wrong order again. We need to remove the player from the scene before we queue free the scene, number one. And then what else are we doing in those other scenes to make it work? There's a specific order you need to do these things in. And then you need to await current scene tree exited, right? Before we load the next scene. That's just how it is, has to be, right? So queue free, await current scene tree exited, and then we get the new level. Let's follow it through. New scene, add child, call deferred, set current scene, level to load, current scene, set player location, add player in scene. And that way we should still be able to get the player because he hasn't been deleted. You know what I'm saying? Complicated. The frame rate. Oh yeah, of course I've got it set to 7. I've got the frame rate set to 200. Moment of truth. Still crashing. Player is a null instance. Game start is a null instance. Interesting. Oh, you know what it is? I already know the answer to this. Facility. The levels. I haven't added them to the group. So we've got movement. We're going to go to the game start and add it to this new group for game start. And then 1A, it's all of them really. We need, every time there's a game start, boss room tester, game start, and all of the boss rooms as well. There is a game start in every single one of these, and we need to add it to the group. Game start. We've done that one. Wait, what the heck? I made that game start. This needs to be game start. Right. Double check. I was seriously on autopilot then. Craze task. Game start. Facility 01. That one's going to be right because it's the one we're working in. That one's correct. Correct. And then the security room we never got to. Okay. It doesn't exist. Because it doesn't exist. Long load scene. Come on, man. Load player on a null instance of an on a null instance. Bin base null instance. A game start is null. Why would it? Okay, let's have a look. Now we've made it a part of the group, so at this point you would expect that to go fine. And why would it be any different from reloading the current scene? I wonder. So load next scene, set current scene. Do I need to make sure that it's in the scene? Level to load scene. Call deferred. And I've got like just a 0.5 second timeout here. That's kind of funny. Level change to emit. What does that go to? Don't know. Let's have a look at like the reload. Await current scene. Fresh load level. How is this different? New scene, level add child, set current scene, add player in scene. Versus load next scene, which we don't do that. Why don't we do that? Why do we do it here rather than just select player location works though, get nodes in group doors. So why wouldn't add player in scene work? I need to breakpoint that. Because yeah, that doesn't make any sense. Let's just breakpoint load next scene. On add player in scene. Game start is still null. Yeah, it's weird. Like it's almost like it didn't save. Let me just double check. This room. Game start, game start. It's in the group. Yeah, I don't. Frick. Okay. It broke. The camera's like extra zoom now. That's an interesting bug. Breakpoint. New scene. Let's have a look at the scene tree. It is facility entry 2. It should be fine. Game start. Game start is still null. Ah, why is that? It doesn't really make any sense. It should be able to find that. What's the time? Oh, I've got to go to work. Shit. I didn't even check to see if that crashed. I guarantee it did, though, because it was null. Game start was null. Anyway, I gotta go. Otherwise, the world will end. Thank you all for start. Is the string game start correct? Yeah, well, it works for everything else except for that. I would assume so. Okay, watch Cake77. He's a cool dude. That's the guy that went viral on Twitter for like making 250k. See you later, guys. I'm gonna go read some contracts.